pray. Her parents sold her house. Mistake or plan behind her back.
Have you ever had a moment so surreal that your brain refuses to catch up with your eyes? 1 second. Lena Williams, 27, was inside her kitchen rinsing spaghetti sauce off a wooden spoon while her 6-year-old son Eli sat at the table coloring a dinosaur green for absolutely no reason. The next, she was standing outside in the dark with no shoes, no coat zipped all the way up, and 2 duffel bags sitting on the porch like someone had decided her life could be packed up in under a minute. The front door was shut, locked, and not by accident. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. At first, Lena honestly thought it was some kind of misunderstanding. Maybe the lock had jammed, maybe Eli had bumped something. Maybe she'd stepped out too quickly when she heard the trash bins topple in the wind. But then she twisted the knob again, harder this time, and felt that dead, final resistance. Behind her, Eli's voice came out small and shaky. "Mom? Why are our bags out here?" That question hit harder than the cold. Because Lena didn't know. And if a mother can't answer something that simple, that basic, the fear starts spreading fast. She knocked, then pounded, then slammed the heel of her hand against the door so hard it stung. "Hello?" she shouted. "Open the door!" Nothing. Across the street, curtains moved. Someone was watching. Nobody helped. The porch light buzzed overhead, flickering just enough to make everything feel unstable. Eli started shivering, pressing himself into her side. Lena wrapped one arm around him and scanned the driveway, the windows, the dark shape of the house that was supposed to mean safety. Instead, it looked unfamiliar, sealed off, like it had rejected her. Then headlights turned the corner. A black sedan rolled slowly toward the curb and stopped directly in front of the house. The engine kept running. The tinted window slid down. A man in his mid-40s looked at Lena, then at Eli, then back at the house with a frown that made no sense at all. And the first words out of his mouth made the night even colder. "Why are you out here?" Why didn't he drive away? That was the first thing that didn't sit right with Lena. Most people, seeing a woman and a child stranded at night, might slow down, maybe ask if they needed help, and then leave. But this man didn't leave. He parked, engine still humming. Eyes steady, observant, almost analytical. Lena tightened her hold on Eli. "This is my house," she said quickly, as if saying it first made it more true. The man tilted his head slightly, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "No," he said after a pause, "it's not." That landed wrong, deeply wrong. He stepped out of the car, calm and composed, dressed like someone coming home from work, not like someone intruding on a stranger's crisis. "My name is Mark Halpern," he said. "I live here." Lena let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "No, you don't. I'm Lena Williams. I've lived here for 3 years. Mark didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. That made it worse. Instead, he walked back to his car, opened the passenger door, and pulled out a thin folder. Inside were neatly organized documents. He flipped them open right there under the flickering porch light. "Look," he said, holding them out. Lena hesitated but took them. A property deed, utility bills, official forms, all with the same address, all with his name. Her stomach tightened. These could be fake. "Check the dates," he replied quietly. She did. Recent, signed, filed. Behind them, something shifted inside the house. A shadow crossed the living room window. Eli's voice trembled. "Mom, someone's in there." Lena spun around and rushed to the door, pounding harder now. "Open the door right now." The handle clicked. The door opened just a few inches. A woman she had never seen before stared out, annoyed and defensive. "You need to leave," she snapped. "You're scaring my kids." Lena froze. "Your kids?" The woman's expression didn't change. "Yes, my kids. This is our home." The door slammed shut again. Lena staggered back a step, her grip loosening on the papers. Mark's voice came quieter this time, almost cautious. I bought this house last month. Lena shook her head immediately. No, that's not possible. I didn't sell anything. Mark studied her face carefully now, like he was reassessing everything. You might want to check that, he said. As if on cue, her phone buzzed weakly in her hand. 3% battery. A new email notification lit up the screen. Subject line, property transfer confirmation, Williams residence. Lena's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't opened it yet. And suddenly, she wasn't sure she wanted to. What if your entire life could be rewritten without you even knowing? Lena stared at the email for a full 3 seconds before opening it, like delaying it might somehow change what was inside. It didn't. Her eyes scanned line after line, faster and faster, until the words stopped feeling real. Property transfer confirmed. Ownership reassigned. Digital signature verified. Her name, her signature, her consent. No, she whispered, shaking her head as if she could physically reject it. No, I didn't do this. Mark stepped closer, his tone no longer defensive. Now it carried something else, concern. Then someone did it for you. That sentence landed heavier than anything else so far. Because it meant this wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. Lena's mind raced, flipping through possibilities, eliminating them just as quickly. She hadn't listed the house, hadn't met with a realtor, hadn't signed anything. Unless her chest tightened. Her parents, David and Susan Williams. They had helped her buy the house 2 years ago, co-signed everything, handled documents when she felt overwhelmed. They always said things like, "Don't worry, we'll take care of it." At the time, it felt like support. Now, it felt like something else entirely. Behind them, the situation escalated fast. The front door opened again, but this time, not for conversation. The woman inside stepped out onto the porch, phone in hand. "I've called the police," she said sharply. "You need to leave. Now." Within minutes, red and blue lights painted the street in flashing streaks. Neighbors gathered in small clusters, whispering, watching, some even recording. Lena tried to explain. She did, over and over. "This is my house. There's been a mistake. My son lives here." But every time she spoke, the evidence worked against her. The officer listened carefully, then turned to Mark, then back to Lena with a measured, almost apologetic expression. "Ma'am, legally, this property belongs to him." That was it, just like that. Reality decided. Eli's hand tightened around hers. "I want to go home," he said, voice breaking. Lena dropped to her knees and pulled him close, her own voice cracking now. "We will," she whispered, but it sounded hollow, even to her. Mark glanced between them, then exhaled slowly. "They can stay in the guest room tonight," he told the officer, "at least until this gets sorted." Lena hesitated. A stranger's house that used to be hers, or the street with her 6-year-old. She nodded. That night felt unreal. The same walls, the same floors, but everything had shifted, like she was a guest in her own memory. Eli eventually fell asleep beside her, but Lena didn't. At 2:17 a.m., she reopened the email, scrolled slower this time, careful, focused, and then she saw it. At the bottom of the document, authorized representative David Williams. Her father, her breath went cold, because now this wasn't confusion anymore. It was betrayal. And by morning, she knew exactly where she was going. What do you do when the people you trust most are the ones who pulled everything out from under you? 3 days later, Lena stood on her parents' front porch, her hand hovering over the doorbell just a second longer than it should have. Not from hesitation. From restraint, because once this door opened, there was no going back. Beside her stood Mark Halpern, quiet, composed, holding a copy of the transaction documents. Not as an ally, not quite a stranger anymore either. something in between a witness to something that had gone too far. Eli stood close to Lena, gripping her hand tightly, unusually silent. Lena pressed the doorbell. Footsteps inside. The door opened. Her mother, Susan Williams, 52, appeared first, smiling automatically, like she always did. Then the smile collapsed. Her eyes flicked to Lena's face, then to Mark, then to the papers in Lena's hand. Behind her, David Williams, 55, looked up from the living room and froze. Completely, that silence, it said everything before anyone spoke. Wait, Susan said softly, her voice already thinning. You know, Lena cut in, her voice low, controlled, not a question, a statement. No one answered. David stood slowly, placing his hands on the back of the couch like he needed something to steady himself. We were going to tell you, he said. Lena let out a short, sharp laugh. Tell me what, that you sold my house? That you locked me and your grandson out in the cold? Susan stepped forward quickly. It wasn't like that. Lena, you don't understand, we were helping you. Helping me? Lena repeated, her voice rising now. By making me homeless? David's expression hardened, a defensive edge replacing the shock. You were struggling, you were behind on payments, we stepped in before things got worse. That wasn't your decision to make. It was when you couldn't handle it, he snapped. The words hit like a slap. Mark stepped forward slightly, calm but firm. You didn't have legal authority to sell her property without consent. Susan's composure cracked then. We had access. We handled all her paperwork. Lena shook her head, disbelief turning into something colder. Access isn't permission. Eli pressed into her side, sensing the shift, the tension thickening in the air. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned, signed, executed. By her own parents. Lena looked at them both, really looked this time, like she was seeing them clearly for the first time in her life. And then came the moment that mattered most. The choice. Walk away and let it go. Or make them answer for it. Her grip tightened on the papers. I'm not letting this go, she said. What actually happened? Within 48 hours of that confrontation, Lena made it official. She filed a fraud report, and this time everything moved fast. Digital forensics traced the transaction trail back piece by piece. The electronic signatures, logged from an IP address registered to her parents' home, the authorization emails, sent through an account her father had set up years ago when helping manage her documents. Even the identity verification steps had been bypassed using stored copies of Lena's ID files she had trusted them to keep safe. There was no gray area left. David and Susan Williams had deliberately impersonated their daughter to sell her home. The sale was legally voided within weeks. Mark, who had unknowingly purchased the property in good faith, was reimbursed through insurance and legal channels. He didn't fight it, he didn't argue. If anything, he seemed relieved to step away from something that had never felt right to begin with. When Lena walked back through her door again, it didn't feel like a victory. It felt quiet. Eli ran ahead of her, straight to his room, talking about his toys like nothing had happened. Like children sometimes do, adapting faster than the adults around them. But Lena stopped in the entryway. Her hand rested on the wall. Same house, same space, different meaning, because the damage wasn't just legal, it was personal. Her parents were charged with fraud, identity theft, and unlawful property transfer. The case didn't drag, there was too much evidence. David lost his consulting contracts almost immediately. Susan withdrew completely, avoiding calls, messages, even extended family. And the family split. Some defended them, some didn't. Lena stopped engaging altogether. Mark checked in once or twice, nothing intrusive, just making sure she and Eli were stable, then even that faded naturally. Life didn't snap back. It recalibrated. A few weeks later, Lena stood on her porch again, but this time, everything was different. A new lock, a new security system, everything under her name. only her name. Eli looked up at her that night, small hand in hers. Are we safe now? Lena looked at the door, then the windows, then the quiet street beyond. Yes, she said. And this time, the answer didn't depend on anyone else. The porch light stayed on, but no one was left outside.
So was it control, depression, or something even worse you noticed?